Look, let me just refresh your memory. President Kufuor came after President Rawlings. And all the people here were alive. When we were trying to transit into a democracy, nobody believed that President Rawlings would give up power. From when the constitution was done to the transitional provisions, everybody thought, no, this man will never give up power. We had an election, he won, we just left it alone. Finally, President Kufuor won. Every day, people thought President Rawlings would come back and take power one way or the other. The whole first year of President Kufuor, we wake up and we're wondering, is this government still there? And there was this euphoria. And in that instance, it was actually mixed with some fear. So we're very happy when after 1 year, okay, of President Kufuor, this country was still stable. And I remember, it was euphoric. It went into the next year, all right? After that, we expected, in fact, some MPP people said NDC will stay in opposition for 30 years. The next person we expected was President Nado to take over from him. And he lost on a runoff. And President Mills came in. So note, President Mills came in after losing first round and winning second round. He wasn't really expected to. So he was very, gingerly. But a lot of sympathy inured to the benefit of Nado. And after 3 rounds, Nado became president. People wept during Nado's inauguration. We forgot these things. It was intense emotion. In the first year of Nado, it was the same thing. In fact, more. People were happy, went into the next. In fact, the first 4 years, even after the 4 years of Nado, when things didn't look like we were going well, Nado got the second term. Because people were really euphoric. He managed to mess up so bad that around the 8 years, everybody wanted him out. And then President Mahama, who had had the bad run in the previous times, comes in riding on the disaffection against President Nado.
And he's better. His record shows he's better.
Let me do my work. Let me do my work. Okay. 1, riding on the disaffection against President Nado. 2, people also felt like he has suffered all the things that he suffered. And you had the worst economic performance in the history of this country, where people actually lost their money after the president promised them that they won't lose any money. The sentiments were intensely against them. To that extent, therefore, this government, even if they did nothing, all right, the change was therapeutic. I remember speaking to some investors, once in a while, these people come around and they call us and we talk to them.
Yeah.
And I told them that, look, even though I would have preferred a different outcome, President Mahama winning was therapeutic and necessary for Ghana.
It was therapeutic.
It was therapeutic and necessary for
We're
Ghana.
using the same expressions as Eduji at some point, yes.
Because that's true. People just wanted to break with this thing, all right? So for me, I'm happy with it. And we came from such a low that even stabilizing this economy and not doing much was going to be sufficient. Then I realized I'm an analyst, we watch these things.
Absolutely.
Good presidents tend to be lucky.
Good presidents tend
to be lucky.
What do you mean?
What I mean is that there's a saying that, fortune favors the brave and the universe conspires to the aid of they that are seeking the good things in life. The whole universe, let me explain why I'm saying what I'm saying. People are saying the city has appreciated, which is true. All right? But what they are not saying is that the dollar has depreciated across the world. All right? I work in a place where we are analyzing the economics. People are giving a lot of, kudos to Gold Board. Gold Board has done something. But the effect of Gold Board on the city today is less than 10%. Watch the numbers. The dollar has depreciated. There's so many different things playing out. But the point I'm making is that good presidents tend to be lucky. All right? The whole of this year, this government has almost not spent. The first 6 months, they didn't spend anything. Even up to now, there are, intentions to spend and that kind of thing, but not much expenditure has happened. And we've gone 1 year already. Okay? When you work the economics of it, everything is working towards what we are saying today. And it is good. And I commend President Mahama for it. Indeed, we are a better off country. Before the election, I wrote a piece. And in the piece, I said that, look, we are lucky as Ghanaians to have President Mahama and Vice President Bawumia as the people to choose from, because both of them are very fine gentlemen. And that's what we've seen. President Mahama is the best best dove amongst the hawks in his government. What I mean is, there are people in the government, including nice people like Eduji, who would want some wilder reactions, okay, given the change of government. And President Mahama is stamping them all down. Point I'm making is that we are lucky as a country to have that man. So look, everybody knows where I stand. But like my senior here said, when you see good things, commend them.
Yes.
And whatever we did to get these things, let's, continue to do those things. What is leading to this outcome, and I'm speaking to the young people who talk by heart, is that we have sustained a democracy which allows us to change governments. And we don't have a despot holding a gun telling us what to do. And that is what we must maintain, no matter how bad it gets. We ought to be able to get up as a people, go to a polling station. If even you are like me and you didn't like this particular outcome, live with it, because this is the best that the world, human beings, have devised for themselves. So, given what we are seeing here, I am not surprised, but I have given you a historical perspective that, look, it is not strange, okay? The task or the challenge is what happens in the next 3 years. I hear them talk about $5 billion worth of infrastructure. If they are able to invest $5 billion in infrastructure
without
and finish,
borrowing.
I'm coming there. If they're able to do that without borrowing and complete what they want to do, I will stand here, commend them, okay, and clap for them.
You vote for them.
Oh, listen.
Bring the ice.
But the commendation is
listen. You see, today, the only person, okay, that I will vote for above President Mahama is President Baumia. If Baumia were not there, I'll vote for Mahama. Okay, but Mahama is not coming back. Who are you bringing?
Okay.
It comes to that.
That question of who are you bringing leads us to the next issue. This, you wanted to do a quick
there are some
rebuttal.
two issues that came up.
Yes, quickly.
I think that we have grown and made the economy better, not at the expense of the environment.
Oh.
And I say this because, you see, the attempt has been made to water down the impact of the economic growth. And there had been this other conversation. Look, if you look at the phenomenal work done by Gold Board, let me say this. In a year, if you have a situation where, through the instrumentality of one agency, right, you can have about $10 billion worth of forest repatriation. That is phenomenal. Look, what Gold Board has done, that is what we use Eurobond to do in 6 years.
It's not true.
I'll tell you why it is true. The data. By first year of President Akufo-Addo, with Dr. Muhammadu Bawumia as the chair of the economic management team, we had done 2.25 Franklin Templeton bond in the first year.
Because they met a mess.
Calm down. We have not done so, even though we have met a mess. That's the point I'm making. So you brought yourself.
No.
Okay.
Because so
you are
I was speaking.
no.
Let me put it in perspective. Listen. At the time that I was on the floor, you came in.
Okay,
finish your point.
I also want to rebut the dollar decline.
Finish your point.
I also have that economics
let me just
You're all taking us out of context.
Okay.
So the point I am making is that you have a situation where, through the instrumentality of Gold Board, the 6 years Eurobond of $11 billion, right? You've gotten that same $10 billion forest repatriation in a year.
Yes.
No external commitment on the Republic. The Eurobond brought external commitments to the Republic. Not only external commitment, it became debilitating to the point that we needed to go for a DDEP, which eventually resulted in elderly people, for the first time in our political history, going on demonstrations. Those are records you can never take away from what President Mahama's team of economists have done in stabilizing.
Right.
The question is, have that been done against the backdrop of the environment? Certainly, we've been able to provide a clear balance. And that, for me, is the record.
Thank you. That's what you wanted to say. The quick one. He concluded on a point, which was to respond to an issue that Kofi Bentil raised.
We are commending the government, okay? You people keep talking about gold board.
Cautiously.
Okay.
Yes. Look, watch what has happened with gold board. It was PMMC. The difference between the performance of PMMC and gold board is very little. That is one. This government came and met 30 tons of gold in office. Okay, and in 1 year, they added just about 1 ton. Now, you've sold $10 billion worth of gold and pumped the money into the economy and added just 1 ton. The people who saved the 30 tons, they could have sold it and pumped the money into the economy. All right? So, look, let's have perspective that it's not everything that you've done which is the best that could have been done. And it does not necessarily cast a negative shadow on the previous government because they saved 30 tons of gold. And they could have chosen to sell it and pump it into the market.
Let me also come in. The 30 tons, we printed money to buy the 30 tons, and it created problems. And the IMF stopped us. The IMF stopped us.
The value of 30 tons is far more than the
disclosure.
How much
the IMF had to stop us because we created inflation.
Martin,
we printed
how
money
much
to
did you
buy.
print? And how much was the value of the 30
How you
tons?
presented as if it was
I'll come to you on it.
Okay,
So you hold
let me
on.
land. When these arguments are made without figures, it throws dust in the eyes of people. What is the value of 30 tons of gold? Okay, and how much was printed? We have all condemned the economic mess. Okay, so let him speak to those things because you did 10 billion. How much is that in gold? The simple point I'm making is this. With a different set of decision making, and by the way, it was Bawumia was in charge of some of those things, which some of us criticized. Okay, but the point I am making is that even when you take credit, be careful to apportion it properly.
How?
Because if you didn't have 30 tons of gold, you would not have the base with which to sell what you sold and bought 1 billion.
Look,
So
Senior Kofi tried to downplay
Yes.
the economic work President Mahama has done by trying to say that, listen carefully, that the U.S. currency, it is because of a weakened
Yes,
US
exactly.
currency. How come the Naira is not doing well?
Exactly, that's where I was coming
It's
from.
a fact that the U.S. currency is the weakest it has been in 15 years.
Because the U.S. currency is doing so badly, how come that the Nigerian Naira is doing as better as the Ghanaian cedi?
And that's what I wanted to say
do
too.
that.
That's what I wanted. So it all depends.
Thank you. Now,
One sentence. So let's repeat.
A contributing factor. The gold is a contributing factor.
How come the Naira is not doing well?
Let me hear. If there was that global weekend effect,
Yes.
we now
is a
have to
contributing factor.
disaggregate. Yes. Let's disaggregate. How much of that contributed to what we are experiencing now?
Listen carefully.
But then again,
listen
also,
carefully. The
not
Ghanaian
discount
economy has
what
always
Gold
been
Board has
unique.
done.
I recall many years ago, Dr. Bawumia asked a person. He said, how come that global factors have left all other countries and it is only Ghana? Because at that time, the Honorable Setekwe had put out there that having read the budget and projected that crude prices was going to be about $85 per barrel. We woke up one morning and crude prices had come to $45 per barrel. And when we raised that issue that it is that impact that has impacted on the economy between 2014 and 2016, Bawumia's response is that global factors, how come that they've left Ivory Coast and come to Ghana?
Yes, excellent.
Today, curiously, we are being told that it is not because of anything novel. Nothing about ingenuity.
No, he's talking about
I didn't say that.
Nothing about creativity.
I said contributory factors.
Please,
The
please.
international-
You see, we lawyers, we know why we say we use the word contributing factors. It's a smart way of saying.
No, this is economics. These are
No,
figures.
but you know what economics?
This is
It's a smart way of saying that, back four.
No, he's saying that
U.S. economy or the
he's saying
weakened
that the
dollar.
weakened U.S. economy
What has happened to
has
the Naira?
also projected.
What has happened to the
Gentlemen,
Naira? How
thank you very
come
much.
Naira is not
I want to
doing
hear
So
from
now
one
me,
person.
please.
to say that.
Well, there's no gold in
The
Nigeria.
points that ABG made, which you corroborated.
Yes.
Even they
just
have
want to
crude.
Yes,
round
exactly.
up
So I want us to
quickly.
put on record that please, that 30 tons, as we started increasing our stock of gold, we printed money, created inflation. The IMF had to stop us.
How much?
Had to stop us. So it came at a cost. If it was good, the IMF wouldn't have stopped us. So you don't say one side and leave the other. Number two, listen, the U.S. currency depreciation, right? Look, it's cyclical. the U.S. currency, you see, it started going up from 2010. So at a point in time, it had to drop. What are some of the factors?
Trump.
One of them is that, listen, people, the U.S. takes a lot of foreign this investment, right? Mm-hmm. Now, those who invest in the U.S., they have to take hedges against their U.S. asset exposures. That's one of the things that weaken the currency. What has Ghana got to do that? What has Ghana? Ghana has no role in that.
Thank you. You made your point. You see, we all agree that there was a situation which was inherited, which has improved. Mm-hmm. That we agree. It's not contested. No. That this 1 year on,
we're better off.
We're better off.
Yes.
It is how it all played out which you all disagree. But then again, the fundamental acknowledgement has to be there. But then that question that you asked is what leads us into the next issue of who the NDC is bringing. Mm-hmm. Nobody, let me just put it on record before we even start, that none of the persons who Musa Dankwa has been putting on his post have come out in any way, shape or form to say they are interested in contesting as flag bearer for the NDC. Yeah, right. So it's more of conjecture, speculation.
No, exactly conjecture.
Unless you know something I don't know. but there's something you did that you asked these of almost 13,500 people you polled in all 16 regions, 83 constituencies out of 276, that if elections were held